Members of the commission, we're now live.
Good evening and welcome to the March 11th, 2026 meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Jeffrey Haynes. I'm the chair. I will now ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Jonathan Kaplan.
Michael Galway.
Karen Burdett.
Sandra Prather.
Devin Murtha, Historic Preservation Staff.
Dan Bruckert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
Laura DiPasquale, Historic Preservation Staff.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening are the historic area work permits. Have the work permits been duly advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the February 25th edition of the Washington Times.
Very well. If anyone is here to testify for any of the cases, please give a speaker form to staff and they will let us know that you are here to address one of the cases. We're going to begin tonight by expediting the cases we believe can be expedited based on the staff reports. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of case number 1A at 7013 Poplar Avenue, Tacoma Park? Case 1C at 8515 Cedar Parkway, Chevy Chase. Case 1D at 3713 Underwood Street, Chevy Chase. Case 1E at 10205 Capitol View Avenue, Silver Spring. Case 1F at 29 Holt Place, Tacoma Park. Case 1G at 5605 York Lane, Bethesda. Case 1H at 6913 Westmoreland Street, Tacoma Park. And case 1I at 7315 Brookville Road, Chevy Chase.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic work area permits in accordance with the staff reports, based upon the record before us and in consideration of the recommendations of the local advisory panel, including the conditions recommended by staff. Hop number 1145456 at 7013 Poplar Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1148430 at 5815 Cedar Parkway, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1149140 at 3713 Underwood Street, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1148881 at 10205 Capitol View Avenue, Silver Spring. Hop number 1148592 at 29 Holt Place, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1149145 at 5605 York Lane, Bethesda. Hop number 1149238 at 6913 Westmoreland Street, Tacoma Park. And hop number 1140619 at 7315 Brookville Road in Chevy Chase.
Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Burdett. I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Doesn't look like it. The motion passes unanimously, and so those cases are all approved. If you have any questions, you can speak with staff during regular business hours, and we appreciate your work to preserve your properties and then working with staff to submit easily approvable work permits. Next, we will move on to preliminary consultations. The first case we'll hear tonight is 2A at 707 New York Avenue, Tacoma Park. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. This is Laura DiPasquale with the staff. This is a second preliminary consultation for 707 New York Avenue, Tacoma Park. The property is listed as a non-contributing resource in the Tacoma Park Historic District and features a circa 1920s one-story colonial revival house and detached garage. Property is located at in the northwestern part of the district along the district boundary and is adjacent to and behind outstanding resources at 703 New York Avenue and 704 Philadelphia Avenue, respectively. The proposal is subject to review under the Tacoma Park Historic District Guidelines, Chapter 24A, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. To refamiliarize you with the property, here's a view of the property. This fence line is along the district boundary. The front elevation, looking towards the adjacent property, wider view. Go through. This is the adjacent property at 703 New York Avenue, and a closer view of that property. A few context images further down New York Avenue. The Carroll House, which is an individually designated and outstanding resource. A few buildings along the north side of Tacoma Avenue. That view again, and on the south side of Tacoma Avenue. So the HPC held a first preliminary consultation review for the subject property at its January 7th, 2026 meeting. At that time, the applicants proposed to subdivide the existing parcel into 2 lots, demolish both the existing non-contributing house and garage, and to construct 2 single-family houses on the subdivided lots, accessed by a shared 20-foot wide driveway. The 3 large canopy trees were proposed for removal at that time to accommodate the new construction. At that meeting, the HPC had generally concurred with the staff findings and recommended a comprehensive reconsideration of the proposal, finding that the demolition should be allowed and that the subdivision itself was of concern primarily owing to the new construction and the shared driveway. The HPC found that the proposed subdivision and size, scale, and placement of the new construction, particularly of the rear building, was not in compliance with the historic development patterns, existing patterns of building coverage, sense of open space, presence of large mature trees, and large front and rear yards, and suggested that rather than subdividing and constructing 2 larger single-family houses, the applicants consider a duplex in the form of 1 larger building or a large single-family house with a rear accessory dwelling unit. The HPC also encouraged the preservation of large mature trees and noted that if trees cannot be preserved, a replanting condition should be added. Following that first preliminary consultation, the applicants revisited the proposed redevelopment and are now pursuing construction of 1 larger single-family house to replace the existing smaller non-contributing house and retention of the existing garage. The proposed house would measure approximately 28 feet wide at the front, plus an 8-foot wide wraparound porch by 62 feet deep with an eave height of 21.5 feet and roof peak of around 34.5 feet. The front plane of the proposed house would be set back approximately 52 feet from the public right-of-way, aligning with that of the existing house. The house would be clad in fiber cement lap siding with vertical flat panel fiber cement siding in the gable end and feature a mix of aluminum-clad double-hung and casement windows. Staff is generally supportive of the proposed setback massing and form, but recommends additional refinement of design elements, preservation of 1 tree proposed for removal, and additional replanting. On the slide, we can see the proposed interior ceiling heights of 9 feet, 1 1/8 inches at the first floor, and 8 foot, 1 1/8 inches for both the second and third floors. The drawings call for an additional 1 foot, 2 3/4 inches spacing between the floors. As submitted, the proposed design features a large porch that wraps around portions of all 4 sides of the house and a variety of fenestration styles. Staff recommends that the applicants consider hierarchy in their fenestration dimensions and patterns and reconsider the fenestration, particularly at the first floor front elevation. Staff notes that in traditional building types, such as those found throughout the district, window sizes typically decrease as the building ascends. As submitted, the heights and widths of most of the windows on all 3 floors are identical, although the window types differ between the first floor and upper floors, with 6/1 double-hung windows proposed at the first floor and 4 light casements proposed for the majority of the second and third floor windows. Staff finds that the smaller panes and meeting rail create shadow lines of the proposed double-hung windows, as well as the use of individual punched openings on the first floor front elevation further decreases the visual scale of the first floor windows in comparison to the upper floor windows, which, as 4 light casements, will have a flatter and more vertical appearance. Additionally, staff finds that the first floor front elevation, which features a single central door flanked by widely spaced single double hung windows, is out of balance and suggests that the first floor fenestration size be increased, the third floor window size be decreased, and additional and modified fenestration be added to the first floor front elevation. For example, staff suggests possibility of shifting the entry door to the left bay and adding a triple ganged window to the right, or adding side lights and a transom to enhance the front entry as possibilities. Regarding the wraparound porch, while staff finds that porches extending the full width of the front facade and or wrapping around one side of a house are common in the district, a porch wrapping all four sides of the house as proposed is unusual. Staff does not find the porch would detract from the character of the district necessarily, but suggests the applicants evaluate the extent of the porch along the southeast side elevation seen here, and consider breaking the porch into separate pieces and allowing a portion of the side plane of the house to be exposed. Staff also recommends adding a stair or railing to the front porch to distinguish the front entry and adding additional detailing and size to the proposed porch columns. We also have the other side elevation facing the district boundary and the rear elevation, as well as the floor plans for reference and renderings. So, as mentioned previously, to accommodate the new construction, the applicants proposed to remove two existing mature trees, a 32-inch DBH northern catalpa and a 31-inch DBH white oak. At the previous preliminary consultation review, the applicants had proposed to remove those two trees plus an additional 19.5-inch DBH white oak. The Tacoma Park arborist describes tree number 8 here, the northern catalpa, as a large, healthy specimen with significant codominant tear out in the trunk portion facing the house, which, while a large wound, has been well calloused over, and the tree's vigor remains high and capable of response growth formation in response to load changes. This is a large canopy tree in good health, unlike many of the adjacent oaks that have died or are dying in close proximity, and that removal of this tree would create a significant decrease in canopy cover. The arborist described tree number 3, the white oak, as a low to moderate vigor specimen with moderate tip dieback, significant dieback in one large scaffolding branch, with a large uncompartmentalized tear out at the union of two scaffolded branches in the upper canopy and two localized portions of rod in the lower flare with decaying response growth. Removal of this tree and other trees and others on site would create significant reductions to canopy cover. The Tacoma Park arborist has approved the tree removal with the required replanting of 10 trees for the northern catalpa and 1 tree for the white oak. So the HBC had previously encouraged the retention of mature trees on the property per the guidelines, but noted if they could not be preserved, a replanting condition would be added. Staff finds that the applicants have taken some steps to preserve at least 1 additional tree on site, but recommends that the northern catalpa, tree number 8, be retained with the potential to shift the building footprint away from that tree, provided it will not result in damage to additional trees. Staff recommends that the HPC allow the removal of tree number 3, conditional upon a replanting of a minimum of 2 large species canopy trees in the front or side yard of the property, and that replanting plan could be submitted with the HOP. Finally, staff finds that the demolition of the existing non-contributing house should be permitted under the guidelines in Chapter 24A8D. Per the guidelines, new construction in Tacoma Park should be sensitive to the historic development patterns, existing patterns of building coverage and landscaping, sense of open space, presence of large mature trees, and ample front and rear yards. Staff finds that while the front wall plane of the proposed house will be positioned approximately 20 feet forward of the outstanding resource on the adjacent lot at 703 New York Avenue, the proposed setback of 52 feet is still generally consistent with the setbacks of larger houses in the district, and that the building coverage maintains an ample front and backyard, as well as spacing to the neighboring historic property per the guidelines. Staff finds that the proposed height, with around 21.5 feet to the eave and just under 35 feet to the roof peak, the proposed house would be around the same height as the tallest residential buildings in the district, which tend to be the Queen Anne houses, such as those on the neighboring 7700 block of Tacoma Avenue. But staff notes that Tacoma Park has a wide range of building heights and styles, ranging from the lower slung bungalows, craftsman and four-square style houses to the larger Victorian styles, and estimates that the average building height is around 25 feet. So while staff would typically find that 34 to 35 feet in height for new construction would be overly tall for a smaller interior lot in the district, given the large size of the lot and its location at and along two of the district boundary lines, the position of the house approximately 70 feet from the adjacent historic resource and the setback of the house, staff finds that the overall height is compatible with the district in this location. Staff also finds the proposed roof pitch is compatible and that the house respects the existing patterns of building coverage and sense of open space, and the overall form, massing, and materials are appropriate per the guidelines. And again, staff recommends that the applicants consider ways to retain tree number 8, the northern catalpa, and be required to replant a minimum of 2 large canopy trees in the front or side yards of the property. So at this review, staff requests HPC feedback on the appropriateness of the location, size, scale, and general massing of the proposed building, the appropriateness of the proposed building design and features, the appropriateness of the removal of 2 large mature trees, and any other comments you might have. We have a few materials that we would suggest for the applicant to return with a HOP, including updated architectural plans and elevations, updated site plan, including any proposed hardscaping or fencing, updated tree survey and replanting plan, material specifications, and any additional materials that are requested tonight. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Galway.
This is Commissioner Galway. I'm getting mixed up on the trees here. You had mentioned tree number 8 as the catalpa, but I'm looking at drawing HPC 1 and that's in this submission, and it looks like that's the one that's the white oak.
Oh,
And
sorry,
number
didn't mix
3
those
is, I just want to make sure we're trying to keep the same tree.
The
That's the catalpa on the left.
catalpa, yeah.
And that's tree, what are we calling that? Tree number?
I thought it was 8, but I could be mistaken. The text is so small.
Look at, do you have the HPC 1 drawing in the set? I just make sure that we're talking about the same tree.
I can point to where it is on the site plan here. I just can't read that text. But this tree here, which would correspond to
Yeah, I think
this tree here and overhangs, is that?
okay, that's it's showing up on this
Those
drawing
3?
as the number 3.
Okay,
A
my
32
apologies.
inch. No worries. But that's the one that you're not, staff's not recommending trying to keep that one, but rather try to keep the white oak, the 31-inch white oak number 8 on the right-hand side there.
No, we would recommend keeping the one that the Tacoma Park arborist found was a healthy and vigorous
Oh, I see.
tree, as opposed to the white oak, which, while it does look kind of like a larger canopy tree in these photos, based on the arborist report, has a lower vigor and probably would die relatively soon
Gotcha.
compared to the other one.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Burdett.
This is Commissioner Burdett. On the same topic of that catalpa tree, they grow like weeds,
Do you think?
and they're prone to breakage, and they're very messy. They're beautiful trees, don't get me wrong, but it just seems like I don't see how the thing's going to survive the construction of the house, the disruption to the roots and all. I just don't see. I appreciate that it's healthy and managed to survive, but they survive anything. And it would be, request, if you asked to put one back, plant a catalpa tree, you might actually get pushback back because it's such a messy tree. I'm not sure I understand the arborist's logic, other than it's a healthy tree, but they grow so fast. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other? Commissioner Kaplan?
Maybe I missed it. Do we know the height of 703 next door?
I do not know the height.
Okay.
If there are no more staff questions, we'll have the applicants come up here. We have Ben Norkin and Douglas Mader.
Sorry, no, Doug Mader is for the next preliminary consultation. We just have Ben Norkin here for 2A. Apologies.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ben Norkin. I'm the project architect.
Before you get started, could you grab a mic there and push the button? Yes, and push the button till it turns green.
Good evening. I'm Ben Norkin. I'm the architect for 707 New York Avenue. I appreciate the staff report. I don't have a lot to add to that, so I'm looking forward to the conversation and answering questions. I guess I'll talk a minute just about the wraparound porch and the window selections. My thought was that the wraparound porch responded well to the site. If you've been there, it's pretty beautiful, pretty flat site, and so I was trying to avoid having railings as much as possible. And I wanted to segment because I wanted to keep a distinction between the windows on the first floor and the second floor. I thought that the roof wrapping around helped me justify the fact that I've got mixed window types. The windows on the second floor are shorter because I've got 8-foot ceilings there as opposed to 9 on the first floor. But I agree, I think we can come up with a better solution for the front-facing elevation. That was the only thing I really wanted to respond to. I'm just looking forward to discussing and answering your questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions for the applicant?
Oh, and I'm sorry, one more thing is that both of those trees, 3 and 8, have been approved, officially approved by the Tacoma Park Arborist to be removed. The owner paid the fee already, and that just came in the last day or two. So in the intermediary between, from our first preliminary consult, we put together the application to remove the trees. We got preliminary approval, which opened up a 15-day public comment period, which passed with no objections. And so just earlier this week, or the end of last week, those were officially approved, and the owner paid the replanting fee. So if we're to discuss replanting, that would be an HPC requirement, but we've satisfied the Tacoma Park requirements as of now.
Questions, comments? I'll kick it off. So I think this overall is much improved project in terms of architecturally, stylistically. I share the concern with the front entry. I think transom and side lights, right now it kind of gets lost on that first floor as the main entry. And realistically, you have the mudroom entry on. I know that's set back from the front plane, but a better distinction of the front door, I think, would be helpful. The different window styles, I'm a little conflicted because you have 6/1 and then 2/2 on the top. I could probably get over that, but it seems I don't fully understand the rationale for that, other than a conscious choice to do it, but architecturally, the rationale. I don't mind the wraparound porch. I mean, I support the porch. It really only truly wraps around on 3 sides and only partly on the left side. And so I'm okay with that. It kind of terminates on the right side by the screen porch, so it doesn't really come across the back per se. And I think it is certainly consistent scale-wise with homes along the street, and therefore is a good neighbor to the historic homes on that street. With regard to the trees, I think we just have to replace them. I don't think the tree number 3 is going to survive the construction. I would agree with that unless the house gets shifted over to the right. And I see you have the porch. The red line on the site plan indicates the setback. Is that correct? There's a red dash line.
Or HBC 0? Yeah, in this
One.
drawing
I'm
here.
looking at HPC 1
Okay.
site plan.
Yeah, it's both. It's the same. Yeah, that's the setback, and then we're allowed a 3-foot encroachment, of which I think I'm using 2 feet for that entry vestibule.
The entry vestibule can be 3 feet into I understand the porch can be, but can the entry?
Yeah, I believe the entry vestibule can be 3 feet, and I think I'm not using quite that full amount.
Okay. Very good. I'm okay with the siding choices. I think it probably comes down to the actual detailing of window sills, heads, et cetera. If you could pull the dormer back even 6, 8 inches would help, I feel, kind of with the overall largeness of the massing. But again, I think it's proportionally a reasonable solution, design solution that complements the other homes on the street. I would also concur with, some of staff's concerns as it regards architectural detailing and the window styles, et cetera. Commissioner Burdett.
So I agree, this is a much better plan than the previous one where this is one house, not two. This is a much better use. And that said, I won't go into the windows because that's been addressed in some of the detailing. The columns I find a little thin, and the patterning that you have of the double columns versus single columns doesn't make a lot of sense, because usually you would have a larger or doubled column around the front door. So I think one of the things that struck me about this house was it reminds me of West Texas houses, mansions, the old country homes, large homes from the West Texas. There's really very familiar repeats, and I think you might want to look into those because they did have a way of vocabulary for those homes, the columns, the windows, the spacing, that really defined that look.
What did you call the West Texas homes?
They're West Texas homes. They were generally 2-story ranch homes. They were usually stone. Hill country, kind of around the Austin area, is where that's part of Texas, the west side. But your house is really referencing that, whether you intended it or not. I am struck by how large this house is. I mean, it is a 5-bedroom house with a closet that's as big as a bedroom, plus then another space upstairs that could be a bedroom. I mean, this is an enormous house with college buildings right on either side, or a college building on one side and a Victorian on the other, but you're in the middle of a college campus. So I kind of wonder if who's going to buy this house when they've got college kids right there, and your house is much closer to the adjacent campus building than the Victorian is. And the Victorian is a beautiful home, and it feels a little more private than yours. and the quality of its detailing is superior to yours. So to me, it seems like a lot of space is going into a building that can't compete, but at the same time, it's in a rather uncomfortable position. And speaking to that, I would say you probably do want front porch rails, because one of the issues this house has always had was students making use of the porch. Even when it was a little cottage, they would just kind of go over and have a smoke and eat their lunch. They're college kids, that's what they do. So you're gonna wanna, the owners of this property will be back pretty quick with a fence or porch railings, just so that doesn't happen. But all in all, it is a huge improvement, but I do think you really need to take a look at the detailing of this house. It needs to really sing. And if there's any way this thing can be reduced in size, it would be much better, because this is a McMansion in the middle of a college campus, so doing a duplex makes more sense to me than this. This size, this many bedrooms makes more sense as a duplex on a college campus than this very, very large house. And that's my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Kaplan.
First, like the others have said, I feel like this is a much better project than last time. Just with the massing and kind of the design kind of fits in with the neighborhood. Yeah, like the siding, and I'm fine with the wraparound porch. I think there's precedent for it elsewhere in the neighborhood. I'm not really bothered by the fenestration pattern. I think the notes are good and they make sense, but I also feel like new construction, you're not trying to replicate a house of the period. It's not supposed to look like you're trying to make it look like it was built 100 years ago. It should read as a new house. And so I feel like if things like fenestration patterns are a little different, that serve to differentiate it from the older houses. And I was also looking around the neighborhood, because I also looked at that front entry. I'm like, that's pretty modest, but I was looking around the neighborhood and I was surprised a lot of them actually are. How the doors aren't any wider. There are a lot of houses without side lights and transoms. And, there's a lot of doors that are centered like that too. Like I said, I feel like the fenestration doesn't really bother me so much. And in terms of the height, if this is a height that's found elsewhere in the district, that's okay. But we're looking at this block, and I would want to know what the height is of 703 next door, and I would want to make sure that, if possible, this wouldn't exceed that height, if it'd be kind of subservient to that. Yeah, I think that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Galway?
This is Commissioner Galway. I think I in general can support what you're showing here. I think, it's a nod to an older home without trying to make it look old. So I think there's some stylistic things, or proportionally, I guess, the proportions are such that I think it reads well. The front door troubled me a little. It does look a little, what reminds me of an old farmhouse in the country somewhere, which isn't a bad thing, but just it's almost like there's too much space between your windows on the left and right and a door. So maybe Chair Haynes' idea of having a transom or side lights or something, that's really the only thing I think stylistically that seemed a little bit, you might want to look at that for what it's worth. I support the wraparound porch. You're not seeing it in the back, and I think having it on two sides and possibly the third is not that unusual. So I'm okay with that. The window pattern and sizing doesn't bother me. I think that I could support that as well. The only thing I think that I would be curious about, and Commissioner Kaplan brought it up, was the height of this home as it relates to the adjacent house. And I think, you know, if either way, if you come back or you submit to staff, I'd really would like to see, you know, this height of this house in relation to that house. Is this actually shorter, taller, about the same? Because with that, that's really something that it's kind of hard to understand the relationship between the two houses without really totally knowing that. But like I said, in general, I think I can support this.
Thank you. Commissioner Prather, do you have any thoughts?
I do. I wanted to first commend you for listening to the feedback because you clearly took into effect three things that I see in terms of massing, in terms of height. I think I would agree to take a look to see if it's a little bit too tall. There are three things that I wanted to comment, and that is the importance of ensuring that this is more complementary of a structure. It really doesn't seem to disrupt the streetscape and landscape, and we know that there are many building patterns, and so it seems to fit. I can say that initially when I looked at the door seemed a little narrow to me. I'm not sure what the size is, but it just didn't seem like it would be an optimal design for all. And I also wanted to just kind of touch on the windows a little bit, just to understand like the rationale, the 2/2 versus a 6/1. You know, if there was some intended, or expected results as a, as a use case for that. But again, you listened well to the comments of many commissioners, and the adaptations, I think, are going in the right direction. I would just look at, again, the door that kind of doesn't sit 100% well with me. It seems like there's some considerations around that space. And I'm fine with the wraparound porch. I think that in looking at the design, it is complementary, and it doesn't wrap around all the way because there is on the right side a structure that doesn't have 100% wrapping. So again, thank you.
Thank you. There are no more comments. So you're generally hearing support for the project, the massing. Perhaps think about the size, see if there's any opportunity to reduce the size. And you've heard comments regarding front door, window, and detailing. So all of this will be available from staff over the next few days, and you can speak with them. I think you would probably, we do want to see a planting plan, probably as the next, part of the next submission. I don't know, how do we feel he should come back for a preliminary or perhaps go for a hop at this point?
I think the staff feels that it could come back as a hop.
Very good. So I too believe it could come back as a hop as long as we have the planning plan and material specifications as well as the updated plans and elevations, of course. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. The next preliminary is 2B at 9832 Capitol View Avenue, Silver Spring. Do we have a staff report?
We do. Just one moment while we get things turned around here.
Okay, this is the fourth There we go. This is the fourth preliminary consultation at 9832 Capitol View Avenue in Silver Spring. It's undeveloped lot 13 in the original subdivision for Capitol View Park. It's identified as a spatial resource in the Capitol View Park Historic District. These are identified as unimproved parcels of land which visually and aesthetically contribute to the setting of the historic district and which can be regarded as extensions of the environmental setting of significant historic resources. This HOP is to be reviewed under Chapter 24A, the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, and the approved and adopted master plan amendment for the Capitol View Park Historic District. Just to familiarize yourself a little bit, this is looking from Leafy Avenue across Capitol View Park Avenue. You'll see infill construction is largely complete, which will be part of a discussion later. Again, you see there's a bus stop across either side of Capitol View Avenue, a crosswalk. There's the bus stop, which actually blocks all access directly to the subject property. From behind the bus stop, looking down the hill. This is looking south across both 9838 and 9832 Capitol View. And then looking back up the slope from the existing access. You see the lot goes from Capitol View Avenue all the way to the train tracks. So again, like I said, this was identified as lot 13 in the original subdivision of Capitol View Park from 1887. The lots remained undeveloped for the entirety of its period, its existence, and it's been owned in concert with Lot 12 and the historic house that predates the subdivision. So again, the house directly to the north is largely complete. The HPC saw that earlier. We'll get through there. Again, because the bus stop blocks all access, this will rely on 9838 Capitol View Avenue to provide any access, any vehicular access to the subject property. So this actually has a bunch of background. Back in 2022, the HPC heard a preliminary consultation for two new single-family houses, both the current one at 9832 and the house to the north at 9838 Capitol View Avenue. The HPC provided recommended revisions regarding 9832, including bringing it closer to the street, eliminating the front garage, and narrowing the house. The HPC approved a HOP for the proposed house at 9838 Capitol View Avenue later that year, and found that the house's visibility from the right-of-way would be limited due to its distance from the road and the drop in grade, and was therefore subject to a very lenient review. The HPC's decision was appealed, and the Board of Appeals affirmed the HPC's approval. November 2023, we heard another preliminary consultation. The HPC found that the subject property is a buildable lot and that the site constraints limited the placement of the house and access to the lot, but also acknowledged that the materials presented were consistent with what is typically allowed for new construction in the Capitol View Historic District. And then commissioners also found that the revised house placement, which was closer to the street, was a significant improvement and would reinforce the settlement pattern along Capitol View Avenue. The revisions included a uniform exterior treatment, which was supported by the HPC. But again, several commissioners found the height of the house, coupled with the narrow side setbacks, that the resulting house would loom over the neighborhood and the surrounding streetscape. So in 2024, we held our third preliminary consultation. So again, commissioners were supportive of the changes, but still found the house to be too massive for the character of the surrounding streetscape. And a majority of the commissioners recommended comprehensive revisions to satisfy the requisite guidance. Specific recommendations included revising the roof form, shrinking some of the interior rooms, and additional changes that could reduce the perceived and actual size of the proposed house. The words that the commissioners used were comprehensive and fundamental revisions. So this is the design presented for the current preliminary consultation, the front elevation. This is the right or north elevation, which is the one that provides access to the attached garage. The rear elevation, and the south elevation, which faces the neighboring historic house. So the design revisions to this preliminary consultation are relatively minor and include relocating the left side bay on the front elevation by 4 inches, reducing the right projecting bay by 1 foot. This allowed an increase of setback by 6 inches on both sides, adding 2 windows to the south elevation of the garage, and carrying the siding further down the garage walls on all 3 elevations. And I can walk you through each of those elevations if you'd like, or we can refer back to the plans. The staff finds that the house still appears to be too massive and too tall, rendering it incompatible with the streetscape and overall district. Staff recommend several changes in the staff report, including lowering the height and narrowing the width of the house, breaking up the facade to reduce its parent mass. The 2 infill examples that staff presented are the 2 most recent infill examples approved by the HPC. One utilized a double gable, which was at 9905 Capitol View Avenue, which is across the street, or reorienting the design to create a gable L form, which is what was done at 10201 Menlo Avenue. And staff finds that the degree of revisions for this preliminary consultation is not consistent with the feedback provided at the last preliminary consultation. Just again, to walk you through, in November 2023, the commissioners found the house to be too tall and encouraged uniform siding treatments. So the roof pitch was changed from 7/12 to 6/12. Siding was uniform on all 4 sides. And then again, in the current proposal, we see the left bay on the front elevation was shifted rightward by 4 inches. And this projecting bay on the north elevation was reduced by 1 foot. And then again, there are changes to the garage, the siding and windows, which are shown on the rear elevations, which I didn't include in this. So this is the double gable example at 9905. This both reduces the apparent mass at the front and allows for the house to be brought a little bit lower because of the overall roof pitch. And then this is a gable L form at 10201 Menlo. This house has had a number of siding issues and restrictions, and to break up it's a particularly wide house also, but to break up the width, the L form was presented and staff in the HPC approved it. It was appealed and the appeal was upheld also. So staff requests HPC feedback on the compatibility of the height and the massing of the proposed house, including specific revisions that would improve the house compatibility with the streetscape and surrounding historic district, identifying appropriate materials for the parking pad and driveway, and any other recommended revisions. Staff notes for the record that the HPC received public written testimony and feedback both from the local advisory panel and the Civic Association, which was uploaded into your board books. Additionally, for an application to be complete for the HOP, we need measurements showing the building height from the first floor to the top of the principal ridge, full finished material specifications, and an updated tree removal and planting plan, and any other items that the HPC identifies. Again, this is a preliminary list and should not be considered inclusive, and I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Prather.
Thank you for the reading of the report. I had a question in terms of the latest design. I couldn't follow the reduction of height, if any.
This iteration, there was no reduction in height. What we see in the November 2023 is the roof pitch changed. The house didn't get narrower, but by changing the pitch of the roof, it's we don't have ridge heights included in this, but the total height was dropped by 1 foot to 1.5 feet.
My second question is, in reading the report a couple of times, I remember in 2022, the materials, windows, doors were specified. Were there any changes to those materials?
No, these materials are consistent with what was proposed and approved in the new house and what was originally proposed there. So we have fiber cement siding, clad windows, architectural shingles. So they're all consistent with what was originally proposed.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? If not, then we'll invite the applicant to come up, Michael Winfield and Douglas Mader. And if you gentlemen would turn your mics on and introduce yourself for the record, and you'll have 7 minutes to make a presentation or ask questions.
Good evening. My name is Michael Winfield. Just briefly, I'll go over a few things that were brought up. One is the inconsistencies of the setbacks. We've pushed the house forward, we've brought the house back, we've pushed it forward, we've brought it back. And if you look down Capitol View towards the post office, all of those houses are sporadic. There's some that are very far back, there's some that are very close to the road. So I'm not sure the guidelines they're asking us to go by there. As far as the height of the house, the one that we were just looking at across the street is also a tall house, but we are actually peak to grade smaller than that house. There's a couple issues. We did receive a letter today from Capitol View Park Local Advisory Panel. It was brought to my attention that Mr. Faulkner is on that panel. In that letter there's no recusal of him being on there. So I'm looking at a bit of a conflict of interest of taking 2 bites of the apple from his point of view. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. As far as the architectural questions, that's something that Doug would be best to answer. That's more in his wheelhouse. So I will let Doug address those.
I'm Doug Mader, the architect of this house, and done a couple of hundred houses now in Montgomery County. A few of them have come to the HPC, and the HPC always makes them better, so I'm pleased with that. We've done a lot to the design here. We had a front garage originally, and the house was very stretched out. In response to your comments, we moved the garage to the back and dropped it under. So the footprint of the house has gotten quite a bit smaller. We've removed bays that projected into the left side yard towards Mr. Faulkner's property. And we reduced the roof pitch. The house is 32.5 feet wide, which is pretty modest. Yes, it has 5 bedrooms. That's what houses have these days, generally. There was a comment that there was never a development on this property, but I think we see a foundation for an old house.
There was a foundation that was actually water and sewer that had to be abandoned for that house that was there at one time.
So there was a house at one point. It was a long time ago. It's all grown over. There's not much left, but there's some foundations left. And there was mention of, is this adjacent to a historic property? I think the historic property is to the right of 9838? 9838?
9834, I believe, is out of the picture because of where it's located.
9834 is out of sequence. It's kind of weird. It goes 9832, then 9838, and then the historic property is 9834, which is not between 32 and 38, so go figure. The Menlo house, which was approved, 10201 Menlo, is 50% wider than this house. It's over 45 feet wide. This is 32.5 feet wide. I think we've calmed down the front elevation, and it's improved, having less of the shingle style siding, just a little bit up in the gable for some curb appeal. So that's what I had to offer. Overall, the house is at least 5 feet shorter, I think, than the zoning allows, whether you measure to the roof midpoint, 30 feet, we're about 25 feet, or to the ridge, which I think is under 30 feet, and 35 feet is allowed. So, yeah, it's a new house. It's a big new house. It's not an overly sized new house.
And just to go back and touch what Dan brought up earlier, there is a bus stop right smack in front of this house, which is extremely detrimental to anything we do there.
Yeah, that's, you have to share a driveway, which isn't ideal. But these,
And you don't have a front entrance.
no.
I mean, you do, but it's blocked by a bus stop.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. There was some public testimony. Mark Faulkner, is he here? And if you would push the button to the mic turn screen and state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Mark Faulkner, resident at 9830 Capitol View Avenue.
Thank you. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on this application.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. I'm a licensed architect. I'm the neighbor. I'm working on a number of projects on the National Registry, so I'm very familiar with historic places and historic properties. I am here today to support the staff report. I am in agreement with the notes that they made in that report in terms of the location of the house in alignment with the other houses. I am in agreement with their notes saying that the roof line and massing is not acceptable. When I first reviewed this submission, I could not identify what was different from the prior submission. You had a diagram, you had a comparison up on the screen, and I wasn't clear what exactly was changing. I think if you read the staff notes clearly, there is a path to a buildable house. I don't think that's being followed at the moment. I think after the last hearing, Mr. Winfield reached out for comments. I referenced the commission's last comments, and I also relayed those comments to staff. In terms of the setback, I noticed a couple technical discrepancies that are 7 feet difference in terms of how far the house is set back from the street. I'm not really sure which one is being proposed at this time. 7 feet is not a minor dimension. Where that setback is dictates kind of the height of the house at the street grade. In my written testimony, I put in a little diagram. It looks like the elevation shows the house set a little lower than what I think it is based on the topography. And that's where I am. I'm in support. I think my biggest comment is that we're at the same place we are 2 years ago. And I thought it would be good to just end with some of the same comments that I heard from commissioners. Commissioner Galway, back in January 2024, you noted that the design was overpowering and overburdening, too much for this location, not compatible. Commissioner Burdette, you stated that the massing was incompatible, that the house was overwhelming to the neighbor, and tweaking the siding is not a change. So that's where we were 2 years ago. Looking at the house and looking at the comparison that was up on the screen, I still can't identify exactly what the difference is. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will open up to the commissioners to ask questions of the applicant or Mr. Faulkner. Any questions for the applicants? I have one. And it has to do, perhaps a technical issue, but on the CAS engineering drawing, I guess it's the building permit site plan, stormwater management plan, notes the first floor elevation to be 350.7, but on the building sections, it's 343.5, so there's a 7-foot difference there. And so I'm asking the applicant if he could clarify that.
I'd go with the civil engineer's dimension.
Civil engineers is more accurate. Okay, so if that's the case, if I understand, that more or less puts and I'm again looking at the civil engineer's drawing, which has the grades on it, that pretty much puts the house at the street level of Capitol View Avenue. Because I'm seeing looks like more or less a 348 contour going across the front of the proposed house and the street at 450, but you're now saying that it's the first floor line is really 350 per the civil engineers. So going back to why does that matter? What am I getting to?
Can we see that drawing you're looking at?
Yes. If you put up the, I don't know what illustration, it's the Cass Engineering site plan.
Give us a second. We can pull it up from the staff report and we can share that out on the screen. We just have to open a different file.
Thank you. So it's the site plan against your building section.
The house has moved forward and backward on the lot. I think it's a little farther back at this point, not the 2910 we once had.
Well, the civil engineer has it at 36.4,
That's correct.
which is about the same setback as your
Yes.
house, Mr.
Yes,
Faulkner.
that's
You're
correct.
at, according to this drawing, 37.3 feet.
And you can see the house to the left of that. Yeah. That is not current. There's this one. This one's current.
Yes. So here we see finished floor, or first floor, I should say, at 350.7. You can see the Capitol View Avenue street on the right, and you see a contour of 350 that's towards the top of the drawing. So kind of your house is, according to this, more or less at the street level.
Yeah, street's 349, and then the front yard goes down to 348, and you take a few steps up to the porch and another riser to the house, and you're at 350.7. That seems correct.
Well, to Mr. Faulkner's point, if we look at his diagram, kind of did Exhibit A in his submission, the house is really up relative to the other houses, if everything else is drawn accurately, that the house is a bit taller than the adjacent homes. Can we pull that up, his Exhibit A?
Comment on Exhibit A, sir. Exhibit A is not to scale. I scaled this drawing today in comparative. There's no rhyme or reason to what this drawing is.
Sir, can you please turn on your microphone? Thank you.
Exhibit A, I scaled some of this out today, and this is not actually any scalable drawing. So the relevance of the red house on there really doesn't depict anything because it's not to scale with the neighborhood. It's just drawn on this streetscape that he submitted, that Mr. Faulkner submitted.
Well, did you provided this drawing, this streetscape plan?
No, sir.
Not that drawing.
No, sir, we did not. That's not our drawing.
Oh, that's not your drawing.
No, sir. And to address your elevation issues, when I spoke to Cass Engineering, we were trying to drop that house or move that house, and because of the water and the driveway connections to get the water to flow between those two houses, we're very restricted on what we could do. So I know Jeff from Cass Engineering had a lot of issues trying to get the house situated when we moved it forward and backwards because it changes where the garage is and the driveway grades and all that stuff. So Cass took all of that into consideration to get where we are.
To clarify, I drew parts of that drawing. The black portions on the black lines on the bottom. I did not draw the red portions.
Chair
Right,
Haynes,
understood.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of back and forth, but I want to clarify, just for the record, what was submitted by the applicant, and then, you know, in terms of back and forth about the public testimony submitted, that's really for the commission's benefit. But I'd like Dan to just address what in this image was supplied by the applicant at what time, so we have kind of an accurate baseline here.
Right, so this was an earlier streetscape study. I believe this was in the November 2023 submission. The house was moved 4 feet, has been subsequently moved 4 feet closer to the street from when this was presented. The HPC didn't ask for, and staff didn't request a revision to this. So it was included in the staff report as an item that was previously submitted. And then the lines, all the red that you see in this were added notations from Mr. Faulkner. So this is sort of an intermediate step from a previous submission that wasn't revised to reflect the closer location of the house.
Okay, thank you.
Can I comment? That's correct. All I added here were the red lines. I was just trying to understand, based on the topography, where the base of the house was. And this was showing, the black lines were showing the house, the base of the house at an elevation lower than what the site plan was saying. Trying to make sense of the two.
Understood, understood. But it appears, or at least based on Mr. Winfield's comment, that the scale of the house is not correct. Is that?
That's correct, sir.
Can we discuss that a little bigger? A little more. I'm not sure what that means. It's not correct.
Well, I mean, I measured the next door neighbor's houses today, and what they are compared to what you have ours drawn at, there's no connection to anything there.
Oh, okay.
And
So
again, this drawing was submitted on an earlier house location, so I don't, to me, there's no relevance of this to this drawing and to the new elevation.
yeah, just to say it again, I did not draw the black lines.
Understood. Well, what I've gathered from this, or from the elevations that were consistent with the cast drawing, is your house is 27 feet tall to the peak, to the roof peak, basically from the first floor line, and you have a little bit of step up to the first floor. So you're just under 30 feet, and that's essentially more or less at the street line. Is that a fair statement?
I would have to go through the numbers to agree with that.
Yeah, that's pretty fair statement. And that's to the ridge line.
To the ridge, yep, yep. Okay.
We're under 30 feet is what you said, and county
Okay.
allows 35 feet.
Okay, but, so what does that all mean to us up here is, that's really the perceived height, walking down the sidewalk, is that it's, 27-foot tall house relative to the adjacent neighbors, which looks at, 38 sits down because the grade drops, so, but you get to 9,900, your house, 9830, which are lower homes, or from the street, from the sidewalk, are more or less one story. And so yours will clearly be, a story and a half, plus or minus.
I think
higher.
9830 is a one-story house, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again?
9830, Mr. Faulkner's house is a one-story house. It's
Right.
not a two-story house.
Correct. So his is a one-story, 9900, it's more or less one story. And so your house is, 2.5 stories with, with the attic. So it's
How's
fair.
it, how's it 2.5? It's a two-story house.
No, that's true. You're not taking advantage of the attic. So that's.
There's no
that's-
dormers, there's no
right,
living
right,
space.
there's no
of it.
dorm.
It's just
That's
a
true.
utility in the trusses.
But it's considerably taller.
It's taller,
Than
yes.
the adjacent. So I guess that's really the point that I was trying to make.
It's taller.
Any other questions for the applicant?
If I may
Commissioner
say
Burdick.
something to your height comments, though, please.
Sure. Make sure your mic is on.
The house that was approved and built across the street is, I believe, the same ridge line or maybe a little bit higher than ours. And it's also beside a single-story house, so it's not something that's uncommon in that neighborhood. The roof lines are all up and down, and there are 2 stories next to single stories. So we just happen to be in between 2 single stories. The ones Dan just brought up.
So across the street, you have a 2-story house on the left and a 1-story house on the right of
Yes,
that
sir.
new. Okay,
Yes, sir.
got it. Commissioner Burdick.
Yes, so the house, why isn't the house pushed back away from the street? You pushed the
was-
other one way back. Why
It was
isn't?
pushed away from the street, and we were asked to bring it closer to the street, so we brought it closer to the street.
Well, it's largely the driveway. You need to go down that driveway and then turn to the right to get to the historic property, 9834. So the house on Lot 12 really couldn't be closer to the street. We had to put it that far back because the driveway has to go way down and then turn. And then we have a little variation in where we can put the house on 13, provided we have it far enough forward that we can make the turn into the garage. I think 30 feet setback was not really enough. It was forward of Mr. Faulkner's house, so we moved it back to be more or less even with Mr. Faulkner's house.
What is the front setback? Is it the established building line? Or is it prescribed setback? I think it's
the
established building
required
line.
setback is 25 feet? Yeah, there was, the house that was there before is not relevant because it was gone so long ago. So I'm showing 25 feet. I don't know what the civil engineer is showing. We're proposing 36 feet.
Yeah, the civil engineer's proposing 36.4.
Yeah.
Right. And we had this house further back. Obviously, my desire is to keep it away from the bus stop as much as possible.
Right.
But we were asked to line it up with Mr. Faulkner's house, which we did, and therefore this is what
And
comes
that
out
works
of
with
it.
the garage, yeah.
Commissioner Burdick, as part of those comments, the applicant is correct. It was with a desire to create a more consistent streetscape with this new house that was going to be on the lot. However, those comments were also paired with consistent comments from the HPC that the house was still too tall. It was still too tall, it was still too large. So it was, the thrust of all of that was to create a more consistent view from the streetscape and to revise the architecture of the house, the size and the massing, also to help augment the house's relationship to the streetscape and to the adjacent historic property. So it was not a discussion about moving a house like a Monopoly piece backwards and forwards. There were many purposes to that direction from the HPC to the architect and the team. So it has moved, but then the other components that you all had requested and that the staff were hoping to see as well have not, changed in such a manner. So to your comment, I think, you can move it back, you can move it forward, but with the other items not addressed, it's, I think from your comment, like it's not doing perhaps what you had hoped it might.
Thank you. Commissioner Prather.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Prather. I heard reference of 9834 Capitol View. Is that a one-level home? It
No,
was not in the
no.
streetscape. Is it two
What-
levels?
It's way back from the street, behind houses. So it's not on the street at all. I don't know. We can see a little bit of
Commissioner
the upper
Prather,
right
if you look
corner
at-
there.
So I tried looking, and let me see again.
So it's this house where there's a fire pit and a semicircle of
Yeah.
trees.
Okay.
So again, that house is
There it is.
this house. It
So you don't
predates
see
the,
it from the street at all, and it is a two-story. And part of that is two-story with one-story additions, right?
Correct.
Okay.
but it is not at all visible from the public right-of-way.
Okay, thank
You
you.
can see it from the train.
Thank you. Any other questions? If there are none, we will give you our thoughts on the current proposal.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to kick off the conversation?
Oh, I will.
Commissioner Burdett.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Burdett. I find this house to be excessively large. The previous house you did, you reduced in size, but it was pushed back so far that it doesn't overwhelm the adjacent neighbors or its lot. This one is right up along, close to the street to create that street line, but it's just too big. It's too massive. I'm not sure I have a problem with the height. I just find it too massive, and maximizing what you can do on the lot just so you can build this McMansion and sell it off, and it doesn't fit the neighborhood. I'm sitting here looking at a breakfast room that is 13 feet 2 by 20 feet. I mean, my God, there's houses probably in the community that the footprint is not much bigger than that. It's just, in a community like Capitol View, where you do have a wide variety of houses, and variety of houses from different eras and architectural styles, you have a lot of opportunity to look at what has been done, and I think that Dan brought up some good examples of houses that are not small, and they're contemporary, and they were done very well. This house looks like every tract McMansion that is out from North Rockville all the way up to Clarksburg. It's architecturally, it just looks like a suburban tract house. And you're in a historic district, you should have more concern you don't have to put in a historic house, but you should at least not put in something as banal as a North Potomac, is it North Potomac, South Clarksburg tract house? It's just, this site is special because of its scarcity and its uniqueness, and because it's adjacent to this old historic farmhouse, and to the other houses. And it doesn't relate to anything. It's just a max out, a McMansion. That's all it is. And I can't support this as it sets because you've not reduced it in size as we asked you to 2 previous times. The reductions are so minor as to be not even visible if you're not looking at a dimension line. And I just can't support this project as it stands now.
If I may address that, the house across the street that was approved is the same width, if not a bit wider than our house. So, I mean, it's the same exact thing. And we've pulled back to take advantages of our rights, like not overhanging the BRLs or anything like that. We've pulled back on that, and we've shrunk the width of the house. So, I mean, we can keep saying it's too big, it's too big, it's too big. But again, Mr. Faulkner's house is wider than this one, so where does it stop?
It's not the width, it's the massing.
Can you describe massing? Because I'm confused. It's too
You have
wide
an
or too
architect
tall
who
or
can
too
explain it to you. Hold up that picture again of the house across the street. That house does not look as big as your house is. It may be, but it doesn't
is.
look it.
It is.
So that's where the massing comes in. And that lot obviously has the room to accept that house and to let the house breathe. Yours doesn't. Yours is a tight lot, it's a narrow lot, and you're filling it up. And the elevation, the front elevation of your house, what's gonna face the street, I just think is inappropriate for this community. It doesn't,
But this guy is right at the minimum setbacks on each side, where we're way
I
generous on
don't
our
care what's
setbacks.
going on across the street. That's
But
not
this is
what
a
we're
house that's
talking
approved.
about.
I mean,
We
you
do
asked
not
us to
set
look at these
precedents.
houses.
Okay, I don't care about we're talking about your lot, your house, and what's in front of us, and I can't support it.
If I may, one of the differences of the house across the street is that the massing, maybe it's wider, but it's split. You can see the part, there's a push and pull of the massing. So it's not, you're essentially one plane across. Yes, you have some bay projections and you have a porch, but the main block of the house is the same plane across the width. Whereas here, the plane across the front steps back. And so you really read the smaller that portion on the left versus the right begins to break down the width of, or length of that width of the house. The fact that the entry is pushed back with the porch, again, gives it additional depth and doesn't feel like a kind of one block of a house. And even to the house to the right, you see probably is a similar size, but because of the gables on that house, again, it begins the, and the chimney going up on that house begins to break the apparent size. And I think that's the fundamental problem is once you, and when you see your house in 3 dimensions, you just see a large block of house with some bay projections, and that helps give it some architectural detailing, but it's a big block of a house from a massing point of view. Yes, you have detailing of the bays and you have trim work, et cetera, but it's architecturally kind of what we're trying to push you towards is a more architecturally interesting house that's more consistent with the broader styles of the neighborhood. And I think that's the fundamental problem we're having is, once you turn the corner, it's just windows and siding, essentially. That's pretty much a notch above track house design. And where the examples that the staff has provided reflects some more traditional designs that some of which have been interpreted more contemporarily, but you see varying roof lines, you see dormers, you see roof lines that come down to the second, below the second floor line or ceiling plane, et cetera, and there's dormers, and those kinds of elements begin to break down a large house. I'm assuming you need this size house. This is what you're being told will sell and make profit. I understand your business to make money and a profit, but I think the point is well taken that there's probably some fat on the floor plans. I mean, the breakfast room is, if it's really a breakfast room, it's larger than your formal dining room. It's about the size of your kitchen, so it's very large. Same with the master bedroom. I mean, we're not in Potomac where you have larger lots, larger homes. The spaces should be proportional, and so I understand you're building over the breakfast room, and that's makes for straightforward construction, but you have you have big rooms that could be perhaps trimmed to get this to a better size. And I think that's the crux of our angst about the house is kind of the size, yes, but sort of the lack of architectural quality relative to the, some of the better historic homes in the neighborhood. Commissioner Galway.
And this, Commissioner Galway, you certainly are at a disadvantage because you do have two single-story homes that are on either side of this property. So it is not the same as turning around and looking across at the other side of the street where you have a double two-story home next to the new home. And so it's not, you just can't take that out of context. You got to think about where it is with relationship to the other surrounding homes. As you drive up there, sure, people are going to look right and they're going to look left, but what you're looking at is the first thing is you got house, and you're going to see those. And I really was looking for something that would allow me to change my opinion from something that I could not support last time to something that I could support this time. And okay, the roof may be a little lower, but from a massing standpoint, we've talked a little bit about it. It's the same thing, and I know it's not exact, but I don't see enough difference. It seems like you've taken this big tombstone and tried to cram it in between these two houses. And, honestly, this house on a 10-acre lot, it would get lost. We wouldn't be having the same discussion. But this home is not on a 10-acre lot. It's squeezed in between two single stories, and you got to take that into account in terms of the size, the massing, the height. And I really haven't been able to change my mind, unfortunately. That's my comments.
Can I respond to a couple of these things?
Sure.
Grant the breakfast room is oversized. It's sized to be under the master bedroom, which is less than 13 feet on the inside, front to back, which is not an excessive dimension for a master bedroom. It's wide because it's over the garage. One thing really to point out is the garage, the master bedroom, and the breakfast room are all set back, 11 feet from the right-hand side. So when you look at the right-hand elevation, it looks like the house is 38 plus 13 feet long, but really, it's 38 feet. That's the perceived massing on the right-hand side. Front bedroom's 141 square feet. That's not excessive. The lot coverage we're allowed is over 3,000 square feet, but we're only asking to build 1,780. The first floor plan is 1,560 square feet. I don't think that's a huge house. I know it's bigger than some.
I don't think it's...
And it's smaller than the house next to it, and it is between a single-story house and a two-story house, because its adjacent neighbor is 9838, which is a two-story house. It is set back from the street, but it's not adjacent to two single-story houses.
Yeah, I think it's more the execution of it. Yeah, it's not certainly the biggest house on the street, but just the footprint or the manipulation of it is and maybe what's part of the issue is on this side elevation, because the grade drops a full story, you're really looking at 3 levels plus an attic of space, so it becomes a very
Which is only
tall
perceivable
house.
for somebody that drives onto the private property.
Well,
You can't see that from the street.
You'll see that from the street. Especially on the drive, you got your driveway there, it's gonna make a nice big aperture to see that side elevation. So you will see it, in my opinion. I would look to see if you can bring the roof line down and as much as you can with an overhang in your section, that would probably help. But fundamentally, like this, the house across the street, the massing, whiter house than yours, but it reads smaller or more complementary to the scale of the houses adjacent to it because of that push-pull of the masses. And I think that's what's lacking in, part of what's lacking in your design is you've attached bays to it, but it's really a rectangular block with some bays attached and then the smaller breakfast room and master bedroom on the back. So I get that the lot is narrow. You have to get a driveway back to service the other two homes. I get all that. So you're kind of squeezed width-wise, et cetera. So it naturally makes for a longer house than a wider house. But I think it's the reaction is we've asked to see a larger change in the design, and we haven't really seen that for starters. This is not a comment that's new. We've said this a couple of meetings ago, and you've made some minor changes, roof pitch, pulled this in 6 inches, foot, but essentially it's the same house that it was, what, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago? And so we haven't really seen any honest effort to respond to the size comment and massing comment. And that's, I'm sorry to say, that's kind of where we're landing. Anybody else? Commissioner Kaplan.
That's me. Yes, I want to move the conversation away from massing to design. If it could go back to the front elevation, please. Thank you. Yeah, so just like with the massing, new construction and historic district, we really wanted to kind of conform with the character of the district. And if you look around the district, you'll see that the style is much more simple design. You'll have houses with clapboard siding and shingles, but not, not anything else. And this is very busy. There's a lot going on between the shingles and the clapboard siding. You've got these kind of bay projections with the different, with the MDO panels, and you've got this door with like very, very ornate side lights and transom. And I think it's much more complex than anything you're going to find in the district. And so I would recommend kind of cutting out some of these elements and kind of choosing a couple. A good exercise might be to go out into the district and kind of see what's out there. And if you're not seeing, and I'm not, and these comments aren't about the aesthetics of your work. It's just literally to how it conforms to the rest of the district. But if you're going out in the district, you're not seeing an oval window like that, it's probably not something you should have. If you're not seeing kind of bumped out bays like that, it's probably not something you should have. It should really be what you see in the district and kind of limit it to a couple of elements. And in terms of the massing, I looked in the staff report. It looks like staff has been, instead of looking at kind of numbers and measurements and heights and things, it seems like the projects that get approved find ways to break up their massing so they're not so overwhelming. And it looks like they've been providing you with some interesting alternatives. So I think they're a good resource to find out how you can, maybe maintain some of your size, but make it not appear so massive. So.
Any other comments? Commissioner Prather.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Prather. I think that the report has sufficient details to help you progress your project in a way that it respects the historic district. And I also think that the essential form and integrity of the historic area should be considered. I think that there are a number of tips and strategies and examples, and the breaking up, the massing is definitely one big one. But also just looking at the character of that district, the windows and things like that would definitely be key takeaways to come back with something that is more acceptable and respectful and in alignment with the standards of interior.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, so,
Just one more thing. You know, we keep looking at the massing from the street. One thing that's never been in the streetscape is this bus stop, which is very detrimental to this project. There's nothing I can do about it. It hides the whole left side of this house. So it's something we're trying to work with. So when we talk about the size of the house, to be able to market this house, that the bus stop is detrimental. And we're trying to overcome that in any way we can by building something more, you know, oh, this is nice inside, it's roomy, blah, 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 blah. Because, I mean, the bus stop outside is just, it's horrible. I mean, it's something we have to live with, and it is what it is. But I think I'm asking also that that should be taken into consideration, because we are trying to work with that and economically make our house something that's sellable with that in front of it. And other than that, thank you for all your comments.
yeah, thank you. Hopefully, when we see you again, I think we're gonna, unfortunately, gonna need, we need some real change. We don't want to keep dragging you back for preliminaries. We want to help advance you to a hop. I don't believe we've seen a tree conservation plan at this point yet, have we? So that should
We
probably.
haven't, because the house has been
Yeah,
all
can
over
move
the
back and
place,
forth.
so
So,
we wanted to get that. And
you know, I think you can proceed to provide one. You know, I think the setback, as you have it now, is I kind of agree that having some consistent street frontage is part of the character of the neighborhood. It's now, okay, how does the mass of your house relate to that street front? And so if you can solve that riddle, then you're going to have it. But we need to see a tree conservation plan for the next round. But really, I suggest you go back and look at some of the examples that the staff has shown. And again, it's breaking up the box, fundamentally speaking. And with that, unless you have any questions, I think staff has our comments. You can get with them to get a summary of those comments. And hopefully, next time we see, we can get a hop together.
And that's why I asked Mr. Mader to join us, because that's his expertise. And for me to sit here and go through that stuff, I think it's more beneficial if Mr. Mader hears what you guys are saying, instead of me coming back saying, hey, Doug, this is what they want. So I think this will be, I think this will be very helpful to get what you guys want.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next order of business. Do we have minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have the minutes, the draft minutes from the February 25th meeting.
Has anybody read the minutes? Commissioner Galway.
This Commissioner Galway, I have read the meeting minutes, and I make the motion that we approve the draft minutes dated Wednesday, February 25th.
Do I have a second?
Yes, this is Commissioner Prather. I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The
This is
motion.
Commissioner Burdett. I abstained since I did not attend.
Thank you. So the ayes have it. Next order of business, do we have any commission items? I don't think we do. Any staff items?
No staff items.
If not, I deem this meeting over.